My name is Dr. Abdi Hussein Awgas Jama, and I am originally from Hargeisa, Somaliland. And if you want to know my educational background, I went to elementary school called Dami, for those who know Dami, and I went to my middle school to Ahmed Gurey. I didn't go to high school. I got a GED here in America. Then I went to City University of New York, where I got a degree in accounting, and then I got an MBA degree in management, and finally I got a doctorate in education. And in the last 25 years or so, I've been involved in education in America. Now, the purpose of this presentation today is to share with the public, anybody who's listening to this, the presentation I was asked to prepare for the Somaliland conference in Washington, D.C. in May 18 and 19. And I would like to share that again with the public who may not have had the opportunity to watch it. Again, this is Abdi. I want to share with you the actual presentation I prepared for Somaliland conference in May of 2012 in Washington, D.C. And this is the actual presentation. That's me, Dr. Abdi Hussein Gas. From educational point of view, I have an MBA, and I'm also certified public accountant, and I have a doctorate in education. In America here, I've been involved in education more than 24 years. And I've been involved as an administrator in many schools. And one of the things I was very interested in and I was asked to do is turn around schools that are not performing. In America, I have two sons. One is Isaac Gas, who is just finished the second year at Rutgers University in New Jersey, and a Goulet Gas, who is just getting into 7th grade now, and my wife, Nima Gas. And we all lived in New Jersey, America. Now, this video this presentation I'm about to share with you, talks about the education of Somaliland and how it has progressed from civil war until today. So, Somaliland has been struggling to rehabilitate its structure or infrastructure destroyed by the many years of civil war. When the central government in Somalia collapsed in 1991, all the schools were destroyed, all infrastructure were destroyed, and the first 7 years, the people in Somaliland and their government put emphasis on building primary education.
That's left the country almost bankrupt. But conflict between the north and south was born with Somalia.
It actually goes back a very long way, because northern Somalia was originally a British colony and southern Somalia was originally Italian colony, and the two were joined together when the Somali Democratic Republic was set up. And the North has always felt that it hasn't really had a fair deal from the South.
Tonight there's confusion over just how far the SNM rebels have advanced. It seems the town of Bareo was taken temporarily earlier this week. Berbera may also have seen battles, and the road from there to the city of Hargeisa, where most of the aid workers were based, has also, it seems, been attacked. Certainly the radio station went off the air. The SNM claim they're close to victory in the north, despite a remarkable difference in numbers. It's thought about 3,000 rebels are up against as many as 30,000 government troops.
For quite some time, the rural areas have been under our control, but during the recent offensive, we have taken over most of the urban centers. Hargeisa now is in our hands, which is the second capital of the country, and which is the main town in the northern regions. And the second one to that, which is Burao, again a regional capital, and a very, very important and strategic area, and many other district capitals and towns and villages, and all these things are in our hands at the moment.
The Somali government says there's no unrest and no reason for the aid workers to have left at all.
These pictures, shot a week later on the rebel side, show members of the SNM moving freely in several areas of Hargeisa, the biggest town in what was once the British-ruled part of Somalia. captured government military equipment helped the SNM sustain their offensive. The government's efforts to dislodge the rebels have been masterminded by General Morgan, the flamboyant regional army commander seen here during recent field operations. Desertions are said to have sapped army morale and effectiveness. The government used aircraft as well as artillery against the rebels in Hargeisa. The pictures from the rebel side show the consequences of the fighting.
Now, the civil war, actually what it did is, it destroyed everything. The cities were bombed, schools were destroyed, and student enrollment and literacy levels really was brought to nil almost. What I'm sharing with you is Somaliland as stands today as a viable independent state. It comprises many cities, and Hargeisa is being the capital, and many others, and education has been spread throughout. And entrepreneurship, private economy is thriving in that area because the government doesn't have the resources to help in that sector. Now let me just share with you about equity, the gender, about the enrollment, how it has changed from 1992 up to now. So the data I'm about to show you is 1995-96. What the total enrollment in schools in Somaliland were. It was 8,000, almost 9,000 students in primary education. And of that, there weren't that many students in secondary or higher secondary education. We're talking about secondary 9, 10, 11, 12. Now, just in a matter of 5 years or so, that enrollment shoot up to almost $18,000. And people realize how important education is. The private economy boomed, and they helped build schools, and people want education. And the next, we're going to talk about the gender enrollment. As you can see, in 1995 to 1996, the enrollment of male was about 6,000 students versus about 2,000 females. Now that number, in just a matter of 5 years or so, has jumped to the male enrollment showed 108,000 students, whereas the female were about 62,000, about 40% ratio. That is significant improvement, but still a long way to go. Now, when the country was destroyed, the Somaliland people and its government needed to know what can be done. And to that, they needed to perform assessment where things are. So, as you can see, Somaliland enrollment was 15%, the lowest in Africa. And it was very clear then that the people really appreciate and want education. So, everybody realized the expansion of education is really crucial to the development of a society that has been destroyed. So the education assessment was helped with an aid from USA and other international agencies. That assessment was supposed to provide a better data where the challenges are and where the opportunities are. And everybody realized, as we said, and USA realized, that identifying those opportunities is needed to improve the education sector. Of course, we know now the civil war and the collapse of Siad Barre government really rendered the education in Somaliland and in Somalia the poorest in the world. Now, as we said, the cities and all the villages were bombed and looted. Basic services such as the water, healthcare, and education collapsed. By 1998, the average life expectancy of a Somali was 43 years, and mortality rate for children under 5 was more than 25%. UNICEF reported in 1998 the state of the world's children showed that literacy rate for men and women in Somalia were 36% and 14% respectively, very low. Now, A lot of schools then were built after they made the assessment, and a lot of teachers were trained, curriculum were developed, and textbooks were provided. And then the issue that came up was the demand for education exceeded the available resources, whether it's the facilities or teachers and things like that. So this assessment was based on available documents. They did surveys, they talked to many people, including the government and non-government people. What was needed was to get the best information out there, and nobody was left. Everybody was asked to make an assessment, surveys and everything as we said was done, and the government and NGOs were involved in that process. UNICEF data that they collected were the best available then. What that survey showed in the end was increase in the number of primary schools and increase in the size of those that have been existent for many successful years. Now, the birth of Somaliland government created also standards for education, and UNESCO and UNICEF promoted them. And there was an association called Education for All, a global initiative in Somalia. They helped the NGOs, and they stress and help the development of national curriculum that also reflected in the textbooks that were being used then. So this free national curriculum was provided to all interested schools, and books were given, and some of them in Arabic. The national curriculum included both Arabic and Islamic studies for grade 1 through 4. Now, the Minister of Education, Samsam Abdi, actually a very energetic lady, and done a lot of great things for education, visited London to update the diaspora about the status or the condition of education, and she shared with them the desire people had for education and how everybody was trying to help the nascent nation.
kulankan ay soo qaban qaabiyeen qaar ka mid ah jaaliyadda Somaliland ayaa lagu qabtay galbeedka magaalada London oo lagu soo dhaweynayay wasiirka waxbarashada Somaliland Marwo Zamzam Abdi oo dhawaan soo gaartay dalkan Britain. waxaana ka soo qayb galeen boqolaal ka mid ah jaaliyadda Somaliland ee UK ku nool.
waxaan aad ugu faraxsanahay maanta inaan inteenaas oo dhan oo Somaliland wada danaynaya in isku nimid anigoo fahamsan inuu waqtigu adag yahay dhibaatada halkan ay jirto inaad saacado badan meel ama u taraafasho ama aad meel muddo badan shirka qayb gashay inay waqti adag tahay haddana waxaan aad iyo aad ugu mahadnaqayaa sida aad uga soo qayb gasheen id waqtigiina qaaliga ah ugu soo horteen maanta inaynu halkan iska wareysano Somaliland. waxaan kaloon hambaliyo weyn u dirayaa dadka soo qaban qaabiyay xafladan intii caqabado badan way naga hor yimaadeen oo aad ogtihiin oo lacag la'aan ka mid tahay oo ka mid tahay shaqaalihii oo aan 4 bilood mushahar qaadan ilaa ciidan ilaa macallin ilaa biyatooni 4 bilood mushahar sugayay. dhibaatooyinkaas markaa waxa lagaga baxay Somaliland oo gacmaha soo qabsatay haday tahay baayac mushtari haday tahay dadkii shaqaalaha 4 bilood mushahar ka maqnaayeen oo shaqadii sii waday oo aan joojin macallinka bal 4 bilood mushahar ka maqan hadana aroorba soo kala hayay ardaydii wuxuu dhigay waxay waxyaalo yaab leh. anigu in yar markaan wasiirka ahaa waxaan u baxay miyiga waxaan maray ilaa Hargeysa aan ka baxay ilaa Oodweyne ilaa Burcaan ka soo wareegay meel iskuul laga dhisay. yani waxaan yaabay xamaasada dadka reer miyiga waxay ku leeyihiin iskuuladii loo dhisay leeyihiin annaka macallinka raashinka siinayna ee macallimiinta uu noo keena. runtii xaqiiqadii waxaad moodaa waxbarashada dadku inay aad ugu soo jeedaan.
Then what happened is the assessment continued, another assessment continued, and this time it concentrated on Somaliland specifically, and they realized the destruction of the civil war, and they realized also as a result of that civil war all the professionals disappeared, and it was necessary to build human capital. What are the challenges facing the Ministry of Education? The Ministry of Education really developed and articulated policies on various educational matters. They play a role in recognizing schools, appointing educational personnel. The Ministry of Education of course, has a limited budget. It was recognized it could also benefit from assistance in management and planning. It was found that the education services is a big issue, especially those people that are in non-normal area, because in big cities there were schools, but the issue that came is what can we do for people who are in the northern area, and as we know, almost 70% of Somaliland people are nomadic. Somaliland, of course, is an Islamic society, and Islamic education institutions were prevalent before. During the colonial war, the British introduced educational system in Somalia. Now, the donors, the international organizations and all this realized the best way to help Somaliland was to have or develop long-range agendas for reconciliation, development, and investment in the future of Somaliland. Of course, English was introduced at the early grade level and was actually pronounced in grade 7 and above. Now, Ms. Samsam Abdi, the Minister of Education, really did something about the issue about equity. So she reduced the gender disparity. She implemented free education for low-income female students who were not able to pay the small tuition fee. However, because the government doesn't have enough funding to do this, it has the funding came from EU and UNICEF. It didn't stop right there, but it was reported also Somaliland introduced free education at primary and intermediate levels and doubled the teacher's salary. At least now, 200,000 students were enrolled in Somaliland public primary and intermediate schools. Now, what I have done is I have reached out with the help of the Minister of Education to some administrators or owners private schools in Hargeisa. So Mr. Eden shared with me over the telephone and provided a video about K through 12 challenges. So one of the things he told me is, yes, there is a national curriculum and his school and many other schools use, and the average private and teacher salary is between $300 and $350 a month. Public education teachers are only paid about $100. The average fee that they charge the public is between $18 and $25 per month.
ugu horeyn waxa mahad ballaaran iska leh allaha inoo suurtageliyey inaan kelmado kooban aan halkan ka idhaahdo ku saabsan xafladan 18 May wadanka Mareykanka ee xafladan quruxda badan ay nagu dabaaldegayna sanad guuradii 21aad ee ka soo wareegtay markii jamhuuriyadda Somaliland ay madax banaanideeda la soo noqotay. waxaan idin leeyahay hambalyo aad iyo aad baad u mahadsantii waan idinka mahad celinaya dugsiyada private school kaalinta waxbarasho ee ay kaga jiraan jamhuuriyadda Somaliland dugsiyada private-kaahi qayb kasta oo ay yihiin runtii waxay qayb muhiim ah ka qaataan waxbarashada jamhuuriyadda Somaliland waxaana ay kaalmo muhiim ah ka galaan imtixaanaadka shahaadiga ee dugsiyada hoose dhexe iyo kuwa sare intaba. dugsiyada gaarka loo leeyahay runtii waxay daboolaan baahi badan oo waxbarasho oo taala wadanka qaybihiisa kala duwan haddii ay tahay mid toos iyo haddii ay tahay mid dadban labadaba. waxyaabaha lagu majeeran karo ee ay dugsiyada private-ka ay qabtaan waxaa ka mid runtii inay qayb muhiim ah ka qaataan gacan qabashada dadkooda runtii danyarka oo ay scholarship siiyaan iyo deeqa waxbarasho dadkii runtii aan awoodi karinna school fiyada inay iska bixiyaan runtii aanay ku khasbin inay charge gareeyaan lacag school fiya. tusaale ahaan haddii aan tusaale u soo qaato dugsigaan anigu maamulaha guud ka ahay ee Salaam Schools oo ka kooban qayb waxbarashada tooska iyo dadban labadaba waxa aanu deeqo waxbarasho aanu siina dadkayga danyarta anagoo runtii ka qayb qaadana sidoo kale inaanu waxbarno ciidanka asluubta ee jamhuuriyadda Somaliland qaybteeda Hargeysa anagoo barna qaybaha luuqadaha ka dhisna iyo computerka. Dugsiyada private schoolsku sida oo kale waxaa soo wajaha caqabado fara badan maadaama qaarkood aanay lahayn goobo environment ku fiican waxbarashada oo ay ku jiraan maqsino aan loogu talagelin goobo waxbarasho. Wasaaradda waxbarashaduna runtii ay ku amaanan tahay inay intay taalkeeda u xaq soorto iskuulada dowladda ee ay gacanta ku hayso iyo kuwa gaarka loo leeyahay intaba, laakiin awoodeeda oo iska yar oo aanay wada kafayn karin aawadeed suuragal uma aha inay iskuul private iyo ku dawliya labadaba in qaybahan soo sheegay ay iyadu ay ka haqabtirto. Runtii inaanu iskuulada private-ka haddii aanu nahay aanu gacan qabano dadka danyarka ah ama dadka iyaga danyartaana runtii waa waajibna saaran. waa waajib aanan uga baahnayn inna lagu amaano, laakiin waa waajib xaqna loogu leeyahay muwaadin ahaan. Waxaa naga go-an idamka ilaahay annagoo ilaahayna tala saaranayna inaanu qayb muhiim aanu ka qaadano horumarka uu dalka iyagu runtii nooga baahan yahay, annagoo ay tahay ciddii taakulo ama gacan naga siinaysana inaan runtii aan soo dhaweyno, inta kalena inaan anagu isku tashano horumarka dalka iyagana aanu qayb libaaxla aanu ka qaadano. Ugu dambeyn runtii waxaan halkan mahadnaq ballaaran aan uga soo jeedin lahaa wasiirka waxbarashada Somaliland oo sida aynu wada ogsoonahay qof dumar runtii dadaal badan na muujisay muddadii ay xilka haysay, dardar weyn runtii gelisay. Ummaduna runtii waxa ay horumar ku gaadhaa waa aqoon. Waxa kaliya horumar ku gaari karnaa dalkeenuna isbedel uu ku higsan karo horumarna waxa weeye inaynu waxbarashada aynu dhiirigelino keena jooga dalka gudihiisa iyo dalka dibaddiisaba. Ugu dambeyn runtii anigoo ah maamulaha dugsiyada Salaama waxaan runtii aan diyaar u nahay inaanu qayb weyn aanu ka qaadano horumarka dalkayga iyo dadka iyagaba. Wixii ay dadka iyagu u baahan yihiin aqoonna inaanu ka dhisno anagoo ilaahay tala saaranayna. Runtii jaaliyadda Somaliland ee North America ama waddanka Maraykanka ku nool runtii waxa aan idinka mahad celinaya doorka runtii firfircoon ee aad dalka horumarkiisa aad kaga qayb qaadataan. Inaynu labada qaybood ee sector ee public schoolska iyo private schoolska aynu wada dhiirigelino muwaadin ahaan iyo reer Somaliland ahaan, daayarteenana aynu runtii gacan qabano. aad iyo aad bay muhiim u tahay. Waxaan u mahad celinayaa ugu dambeyn guddidiisa oo agaasintay xafladan 18 May. aad iyo aad baad u mahadsantii, waan idinka mahad celinaya daqiiqadaha aad dhagihiin ay siiseen. aad iyo aadna waan idin salaamaya, aad iyo aadna waa u mahadsantii.
Now I was told that the teachers are limited in number. The most viable institution that are producing teachers is Amoud University. Amoud has an excellent education program and their graduates are in high demand and they are being employed by Puntland, Somalia and of course Somaliland. We talked about traditional education, but also let's touch about vocational. There are many students that may not want the traditional education or may not interested in that, and those people should and were interested in vocational schools. And that vocational schools also the same way other institutions were destroyed by the civil war. Bur'a institution and Hargeisa institution are not still viable because there are no resources, but still they are at the nascent stage. They are working hard, but they need resources. There is a president of Goals University that exists in Hargeisa, Bur'a and Berbera to give us an overall assessment of higher education. And in a video, he gave us a very valuable information. Basically what he said was everything in education is needed. There are shortage of qualified teachers, and one of the things he emphasized was to invite retired professors, educators from overseas to Somaliland, and he said that room and board will be provided, a meager amount of compensation will be provided, and round-trip ticket will be provided, and they can make a big difference in higher education. He said we needed digital libraries, they needed computers and other technology equipment, medical equipment. Of course, they need financial resources to build facilities such as theaters and auditoriums. In this picture, you can see about few hundred feet away from the residence, the residential, you can see students are being taught under a tent because there are no facilities. Now, the question that always comes is, what can we do to improve the quality of education for children in Somaliland? And to that end, the Ministry of National Planning and Development done an excellent 5-year national development plan for Somaliland that address many pillars, they call it, and of which one is education. And the purpose was to have a sustainable development in the country and also to reduce the poverty. In terms of education, it said to achieve public and social economic transformation necessary to achieve this, they address the challenges that are facing education. So this is the challenges and opportunities of education that they present in their report. Primary education has low enrollment ratio, something has to be done about that. Primary education has low numbers, especially there is a dropout when the children reach 4th grade, they dropped out. There is a low literacy rates. Primary and secondary schools have low ratio of girls to boys attending schools. Something has to be done about that. Classroom facilities are also limited. As the enrollment increases, there is a demand for more facilities. There is a lack of comprehensive special education in the country. We don't have that, and they need to work on that. That's a challenge. There are limited vocational and adult education facilities. There are also insufficient qualified teachers, low teacher room payments, salary is very low, as we explained already. And that does not attract qualified teachers or increase the number of teaching staff. There is also a lack of special ed teachers, and also a lack of specialized teacher training institutions. There is also a lack of adequate management, planning, and supervision and curriculum development capacity. There is also a lack of adequate financial resources to accomplish those things. There are also limited vocational and adult education facilities, insufficient qualified teachers, low teacher payment, of course, lack of training for teachers. So, of all those things that we mentioned challenges, the planning department has prioritized and developed strategies in terms of education. And what they said is the Minister of Education during 2012 to 2016 will upgrade policies, rules, and legal framework, initiate gender mainstreaming policies at all levels of education, training, and develop institution capacity, initiate teacher training college programs, introduce new school inspection program that's holistic, covers all aspects of school and student achievements, design structured and continuous professional development course for practicing teachers so they can improve their skills, provide incentives such as feeding centers to increase access and tackle retention problems, increase primary and secondary school enrollment rates, strengthen the human resources capacity for vocational schools, and strengthen the oversight authority of Ministry of Education over private schools, colleges and university through exercise of its accreditation powers, strengthen research and development. Then there is an institutional reform that needs to take place, policy and legal. We have to transform, this the report says, the management and planning education, improve the quality of relevance of national curriculum, raise standards in primary and secondary education, striking right balance between general and vocational education, regulate private education, establish free primary education, strengthen non-formal education, also ensure equality, relevance, and access in colleges education. And for that, however, there are specific programs that need to be undertaken. Okay, numerous programs and projects are undertaken by the Department of Education. That includes building capacity, new schools, improve and expand special need education, develop mobile and boarding schools for pastoralist groups, those who live in the nomad area, build curriculum development centers, improve language, science and IT, improve access to secondary and higher education through investment in infrastructure, enhance the relevance and quality of education by developing improved curricula, raise a standard of higher education and introduce accreditation system, initiate programs that target adult literacy and non-formal education for out-of-school children, enhance the Minister of Education management capacity. Now, all those things that we talked about require funding, resources, how you're going to pay for it. So this specific planning done by the planning department also provided funding. There are, if I'm not mistaken at least, to about $11 million needed to achieve most of the challenges and projects that are being considered. And where's the money coming from? It's being thought from EU, and donors like you and I should also chip in. Somaliland government also in their budget is helping in that regard. Now let's talk about then national budget for education. The education right now, the budget of Somaliland is about 90,000 today. Of that 90 million budget, there is only $5 million that's earmarked for education. And that's very small amount of money. So the question is, where is the money going? You know, the country being small, and there is also a security issue. There is a lot of military and things like that that secure the safety of the Somaliland people, and a lot of money is being consumed in that regard. Most of the money that the schools or the department gets from the budget coming from raising revenue from taxpayers. And that's still not enough, so we have to seek international donors to help us. Now, the current president, Mr. Ahmed Mohammed, is very concerned about the education.
السلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. marka u horeysa horta waxaan salaamayaa dhammaanba dadka reer Somaliland ee daawanaya barnaamijkaasi, khaasatanna waxaan salaan gaar ah u soo dirayaa dadka isugu yimid, dadweynaha isugu yimid shirka 18 May ee lagu sameynayo Mareykanka, United States of America. inta dabadeed waxaan jecelahay inaan in yar wax ka idhaahdo dhibaatooyinka iyo caqabadaha ka hor yimid jaamacadaha laga furay dalka Jamhuuriyadda Somaliland. marka u horeysa waxaan doonayaa inaan in yar idinka siiyo jaamacaduhu siday ku bilaabmeen iyo tacliintuba siday ku bilaabmeen. waad ogtihiin wadanka Somaliland waa la burburiyay, si weyn buu u burburay, wax waliba way ka burbureen. markaynu eegno xagga tacliintana, iskuuladii gebigooduba siday u dhamaayeen way burbureen, jaamacadana mabay jirinba markii hore dawladdii Maxamed Siyaad Barre laga saaray, laga xoreeyay. iskuuladii hoose ayaa baaba'ay. waxaa la soo galay iyadoon iskuulla jirin, oon sabuurada jirin, oo aan fasalla jirin, oo aanay tamaashiiri jirin, oonay buugaaga jirin, oonay macallimiin jirin. waxaa laga bilaabay geed hoostii inay ardaydu wax ku barato. waxaa lagu xigsiiyey in lagu fadhiisto caana booraha. anigu sidiina badankiinu baa tihiin dhammaantiin diaspora ayaan ahaa, 12 sanadood baan wadanka joogay. caana boora lagu fadhiistay. caana boorihii waxa bedelay iskuulo wanaagsan oo la dhisay oo xagga hoose ah, dugsiyada hoose ah. dugsiyadii dhexe ayaa haddana la bilaabay, secondaryadii baa laga qalin jabiyey, jaamacadihii baa furmay. magaalada Hargeysa imika waxaa ka samaysan 13 jaamacadood. Somaliland marka la isku daro waxaa ka samaysan 16 jaamacadood. qaar kalena waa laga yaabaa inay soo kordhaan. marka jaamacadahaasi waxay isugu jiraan jaamacado wadaniya oo dad reer Somaliland ay samaysteen iyo jaamacado dibadda laga keenay. haddaba jaamacadaha Somaliland ama diaspora ha samayso ama ha ku yimaadaan maxaan idhaahdaa wax wada qabsi dawladda iyo dadweynaha iyo diaspora badankooduna sidaasay ku wada yimaadeen oo dawladda jamhuuriyadda Somaliland marna kama madna jaamacadaha inay wax la qabato dadweynaha reer Somaliland kama madna dadka dibadda joogaana kama madna saasay badankoodu ku wada samaysmeen laakiin markii la sameeyay caqabado fara badan baa ka horyimid caqabadaha ka horyimid waxa ugu horeeya horta meelihii wax lagu baranayay ama jaamacadda lafteeda ama xarumadii jaamacaduhu deemay jirin kuwa ugu nasiibka wanaagsan waxay noqdeen kuwa secondary iyo iskuulo ma garanaysa halkay secondary-gu uu ahaa la siiyay sida jaamacadda Hargeysa iyo jaamacadda Camuud oo kale iskuuladii dawladdu ay lahayd meelaha ay lahayd ee boarding ka ahayd ayaa la siiyay kuwaas ugu nasiib wanaagsanaaday kuwa kale waxay noqdeen qaar kreysta iyo qaar dhista marka waxay ahaayeen xitaa kuwa la siiyay dhibaatada ka hortimi waxay ahayd fasalo waaweyn iyo hoolal waaweyn iyo science labski iyo computer labski midnaba lama sameeyno ma jirin intaasi waa inta aad iyo aad loogu baahan yahay haddaba intaanan laababka u gelin waxa ka horeeya oo ka wada horeeyay haddii la beedikeeda leeyahay macallimiin qualified ayaan wadanka gabigiisaba jirin horta marka u horeysa imika laakiin nasiib wanaag macallimiintii qaar badan baa soo noqonaya dhalinyaro badan oo Malaysia iyo India iyo Pakistan iyo Sudan iyo Uganda iyo Ethiopia intaba way ka soo noqdeen qaar badan oo tayadoodu aad u wanaagsantahay way jirtaa laakiin tiisi haddana wali macallimiin waa loo baahan yahay waxa markaa laga doonayaa dadweynaha reer Somaliland ee dibadda jooga inay isku taxallujiyaan in ay soo kaxeeyaan macallimiin volunteers oo gurigana laga bixiyo raashinkana la siiyo mushahariyar la siiyo sida qaar imika la jooga oo jaamacadda Golis oo anigu ka ahay gudoomiye qaar baa la jooga qaarna way noo imanayaan masabadna Uganda iyo Kenya iyo Ethiopia waanu ka keenaa macallimiinta marka macallimiin horta waa loo baahan yahay marka u horeysa waxa kale oo loo baahan yahay equipment-kii ama alaabtii laababku siday doonaan ba ha noqdaan ama kuwii medicine ha noqdaan ama kuwii engineering ha noqdaan oo engineering-kii u kala baxaya civil engineering-kii electronic engineering-kii telecommunication engineering-kii iyo electrical engineering-kii iyo civil engineering-kii intaba waa loo baahan yahay laababka jaamacadaha ku jirtaan hadda soo eegtaan waxaad arkaysaan equipment aad iyo aad u fara badan in loo baahan yahay imika mesela jaamacadda Golis oo kale waxaanu bilownay inaanu simulation arrinka ku bixino oo simulation ku siina ardayda laakiin xataa simulation-kii ma wada hayno marka equipment-kaasi aad iyo aad baa loogu baahan yahay waxa loo baahan yahay kuraasi wanaagsan oo kuwii qacanta lahaa oo haddii xagga la iska bedelayo loo soo diro jaamacadaha halkan waxa loo baahan yahay buugaagtii waxa loo baahan yahay xitaa faculty-yada medicine-ka jaamacadaha leh oo ay ka mid yihiin Hargeysa iyo Camuud iyo Golis waxa loo baahan yahay medical equipment dhakhtarraanu sameynayna dhakhtaradii sariirihii baa ugu yar ilaa sariirihii ilaa x-ray-gii ilaa ultrasound-kii ilaa scanner-kii haddii la helo waa loo baahan yahay equipment-kaas oo dhan waxa kaloo loo baahan yahay buugaagtii library-yadana buugaagtoodii baa loo baahan yahay waxa ka sii wanaagsanaan lahaa haddii la caawin karo digital libraries in la helo ama electronic libraries oo ay wax waliba ku dhan yihiin kuwana Mareykan baa laga helaa iyo North America waxa loo baahan yahay jaamacadaha qaarkood ama badankoodaba mid walba in lagu caawiyo inay hoolal waaweyn dhistaan hadduu auditorium yahay iyo hadduu theater kale yahay iyo hadduu kalaasiyo waaweyn yahay dhismahana aad iyo aad ayaa loogu baahan yahay ma garanaysaa oo si wanaagsan wax noo tari lahaa haddaanu helo dhammaantayaba intaas waa inta ugu muhiimsan waana arrin aad iyo aad u habboon qaalina ah مثلا equipment-ka medical-ka iyo engineering-ka iyo information technology-ga intuba aad bay muhiim u yihiin haddaa wax ka soo dirtaan iyo haddaa wax badan soo dirtaanba intaba xitaa laguma baahi bixi karayo laakiin waxaan jeclaan lahayn intaasi waxaad ka qaban kartaan inaad ka qabataan oo isku daydaan inaad wax ka qabataan wassalaamu calaykum waraxmatullaahi tacaala wabarakaatu
and the Minister of Education is doing a great deal and a lot of effort is being put on and hopefully that will be done
jamhuuriyadda Somaliland Ahmed Mohamed Silaayo oo socdaal ku yimid magaalada London ayaa maanta marti noogu ah Bush House stuudiyaha markaan ku marti qaadnay kadib ayuu madaxweynuhu halkan noogu yimid madaxweyne kusoo dhawo barnaamijka
aad mahadsanta
waxaan jeclaa inaan ku weydiiyo muddo dheer ayaad jabhad soo ahayd jabhadda SNM ayaad madax u ahayd kadib dowladda Somaliland baad mar ka qayb gashay laakiin inta badan mucaarad ayaad ahayd mucaaradkaas muddo dheer kadib aad dowladda adigu hadda madax u noqotay oo sanadkan lagu doortay marka hore waan kugu hambaleynayaa doorashadaada
mahadsanid
marka labaad waxaan jeclaa bal inaad noo sheegto dareenkaagu siduu hadda yahay bal in badan dhinac mucaaradkaad ka riixaysay hadda markaad steerinka u qabatay maxaad dheeraad maxaad dareemaysaa
dareenkaygu waxa weeye xilkii mas-uuliyadda saaran baan ogahay waxaanu ugu jiray oo halkan dheer usoo galnay ama ha noqoto intii dalku halkan ku jiray ama ha noqoto intii siyaasadda lagu jiray mar walba inaanu dhisno dal iyo dad horumara oo ay ka jirto xasilooni iyo deganaansho oo harligooda ka jiro oo baycamisirooda ka jirto oo horumar dhaqaale iyo horumar siyaasadeed iyo mid tacriimeed.
That concludes my presentation. However, I want to recognize the members of education panel in this conference held in Washington. The first person is Dr. Abdi, and that's me, and also Professor Hussein Goulet, Commissioner for Higher Education, that was sent from Hargeisa. Also, Madan Ibrahim, Minister of Education advisor, also sent by the Minister of Education from Hargeisa to help us out in this endeavor. Also, Mohammed Arre, this is a Somalilander who lives in Santiago and teaches Unified School District, who also participated in our panel. Qani Adam, she also helped us and she was a participant in this panel. Anab Ali, who is a parent and a businesswoman in Virginia area, she gave her feedback to the attendee about Abar Sotek, where she has her daughter attends, and she was very impressive with the education that's being provided with meager resources. Of course, we have to also recognize Rashid Noor. He was the chair of organizing committee for 2012 Somaliland conference. Also, he is our ambassador in Washington that represents Somaliland. Of course, we have to recognize Hassan Sheikh, who put this program together and who helped us, who lives in California. Also, Noor Umar Hassan, one of the people who sent us video from Hargeisa, who owns Salami School K-12. We also have to recognize them. And we also have to recognize Dr. Saeed Ibrahim, the president of Goals University, who also sent us a video, and all of them will say thank you. That concludes my presentation, and I hope the information I provided will be some helpful to the Department of Ministry and others. And thank you very much. This is again Dr. Abdi Hussein Awgas, and I have the privilege of introducing to you somebody that I am a colleague of mine, also a friend of mine, who will also give us a perspective about education. We talked about Somaliland education, and I think he has things to say about it because he's a byproduct of the formal education he got. So his name is Dr. Mohammed Ismail, known as Inadore. So many Somalilanders will know that name, famous name. So I want to introduce Dr. Ismail. Dr. Ismail, tell us something about yourself, please. Alaykum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome.
I was born in Somaliland, brought in Somaliland. I was educated in early education under the British system. So I went to Sheikh Intermediate School and Sheikh Secondary School. And that education stood in very good faith in my higher education overseas in the United States. We have learned the old British system whereby you have to take many classes. Even our exams used to come from London University. We had to learn 2 maths, including calculus, classical Arabic. So by the time we went to college overseas, we were absolutely way ahead. The first 2 years in college, I did not learn much. I went to an engineering school in Milwaukee when I came to the United States in late 1960s. And then I transferred to University of Wisconsin, where I studied sociology and mathematics. Subsequently, when I graduated in 1974, I went to University of Ontario, Windsor, Ontario, southern Canada. I got my master's degree, and in 1980s, 1979 to be exact, I went to Wayne State University in Detroit. That's where I got my PhD. For the last 30 years, I've been teaching at a college, one of the state colleges in New Jersey, College of New Jersey. The early British education was, if I can put it this way, very solid. We were allowed to be well educated in our religion and culture. That was the British style, but we also got an excellent foundation in modern education. The American education excels very well, in my view, in technology. Americans are very practical people. So that's what Somaliland needs. A combination of the Somalis' tradition and love for knowledge, the discipline, and Islam actually loves, a good Muslim must be a land Muslim, as well as the Western and American technological education. The three together actually make a good convergence of a prospective, prosperous society for Somaliland.
Let me ask you a question. Could you tell us where you went to your primary education, where you get your primary education?
Yeah, the first grade I went to actually Las Amon because my brother Iman Muhammad Dobre was a district commissioner there. Second year, I went to Borgo. So third year, I went to Berber actually. So I've been to all of the place. And then, of course, the fourth and the intermediate, I went to Sheikh. So I spent 7 years of my early education in Sheikh. And I have a fondness and history of Sheikh Mountains. That pristine environment is indelibly written in my mind.
Okay, just out of curiosity, would you say a few things about Gamaderen, a man known by Gamaderen, the man with the long hair?
I forgot.
Just to recognize him. He's not with us, I understand, but I think a student like you who is fond of education and those teachers, can you say a few things about him, please?
Yeah, he was one of those rare souls, the British Empire, the remnants of the British that became attached to their students, and he stayed back after we got independence. He was the principal, the teacher, the mentor, the father of Sheikh Secondary School. He actually taught 2 generations of my family, including Abbas, the late Abbas, Muhammad Torre. Mr. Gamadere was truly a Somali in essence, a British who became Somali. He knew the language, he knew the culture, he knew how to deal with Somalis. He fought with them during the Second World War. He led a battalion of Somalis, and he was impressed with their bravery. And then he took to our culture. And he would know every one of us, his students, in the whole school. We used to have numbers.
What was your number?
My number was 1094.
1094. Do you remember the one number? Who was that?
I do remember clearly because the young man who was number 1 in the school was Ali Qadi, because when I was in Sheikh as a first year student, Ali Qadi was a doctor then, he just graduated from university in England, came to visit us, and he was introduced to us as number 1. And I remember clearly I shook his hands and he asked me my number, 1094. And Gamadere will take off his glasses when he was not pleased with me, and he would say, number 1094, I remember your brother, and he would say my brother's number. So nobody can forget. He was part and parcel of our culture.
Dr. Ismail, thank you so much for taking us memory lane, and also those of us who did not have the opportunity to kind of give us a picture of what the education used to be like. I remember when I visited Somaliland, I went specifically to Sheikh Intermediate, and I video for you, and I think you liked that. But let me just also recognize and take this moment a young man. His name is Yahya Mahmoud Ismail. He's our engineer. He's a young man who engineering in videoing and movies, and really the generation that's needed. We don't have a movie industry in Somaliland, and I think this guy will be it. And he is the son of Dr. Ismail. And I would like to say to him, thank you so much for taking the time, helping us put this together for the Somaliland children and people. Thank you, Yahya.
أوبح لقى ورابشو وحنكو ورورينا ودنكينا وحبرتا ودنكينا وحبرتا وحنبار واجب كيس وحنبار واجب كيسا وهسني